Hi, in this tutorial, we're going to be showing you how to do a slash command, and then showing you how to put parameters like this. If you don't want to hear me talking, literally just take the source code right here. I'll scroll through it really slowly. And then if you want to stick around for the explanation, be my guest. Alright. So, I tried to make it as modular as possible. There's always way more easier ways to make this happen. But essentially, there is a lot of ways to do it, and I'll walk you through each one. So I'm going to start with my basic sync command and then go from there. So I'm going to run this command. Obviously, since everything is gone, it's obviously not going to work anymore. Like that command's not even found. So what I'm going to do is sync. I'm going to sync locally. So the good thing about syncing locally is that everything will show up really quick. So if I refresh, it's going to come on. It's going to take away that buy command that doesn't work anymore, and I'm left with the last command I have. Notice how I have two commands here, or I apologize, two options here, global and local. This helps a lot in regarding how Discord has its API limits. Each one of these await creates an API call, and if you do too many at once, your bot's going to get rate limited. Doing this allows a better approach so you don't end up you don't end up hitting the limit, bro. Right. So yeah, so we only have like literally one, as opposed to if we just did a sync command that did both of it, we'd hit it at least 2 times. 3 times if you count this, but you can always just take that off. Anyways, so now let's get into the actual command. So we're going to be using bot.tree. In a previous tutorial, I used hybrid command. The good thing is they both use interaction, so it doesn't really matter how you do it. So we want to have the name of the command. So we're going to have a buy. So we're going to be simulating buying from a store. So we're going to call this name.buy. And then we want to call this async def. Oh, it's literally right there. But I'm going to type this out just because, to simulate if I didn't have GitHub Copilot. But yeah, it's really important to do typecasting here. So what this does is it guarantees the fact that there is going to be an object of Discord interaction. What that means is all of the variables, all of the attributes, all of the methods that are contained in here, you're able to see that firsthand. So if I were to do interaction dot, you can see everything that is from this interaction. If I were to take that off, like let's say if it's there, it's just no typecasting at all. The methods, the attributes are still going to be there, but since your editor can't guarantee that they exist, it's pretty much not there. That's what these beautiful babies are for. So get that out of here. All right. The next thing we want to do is have an item. Let's typecast this for now, and it's going to be an item of string, right? So this guarantees that when we type in something here, it has to be a string. We can't fucking do any, like, I don't know, dumb SQL injects. I don't know how that works, but this guarantees that whatever is going to be passed, it's going to be a string no matter what. So I don't have to do any checks like if item isn't string, like not a string or something like that. I don't have to do that because Discord already checks that for me. So now I can do interaction dot response. That's one of the attributes here, or properties, sorry. So then the send message attribute, the method, with that, it'll respond to whoever does the slash command, saying that you're buying the item. So this is pretty much level 1 on how to do that shit. I'm gonna sync up and then it should work. Do local, syncing locally. I'm gonna refresh. For some reason it doesn't work unless I refresh. I'm using the browser version of Discord. So yeah, I have the buy item right now. The thing is, the only issue with that. Oh, await. So await is basically the call. Await is basically a promise, from what I remember. There's async and then await. And await isn't a promise. It is a promise that something will happen. So let's buy again. I don't need to sync because I already synced up. All right. So that's cool and all. I'm buying fast food. But what if I want to buy a certain amount of item? What if I want to buy a certain item? So that's where this comes into play. So instead of having a random string and then Discord validating it's a string, I want it to verify that there's a certain amount of items that I'm passing. Because of that, I'm going to put in a literal. Literal is literally string. Like, I don't know. For some reason, it took me a long time to wrap my head around it. But a literal is literally a string. And if I'm wrong, sue me or tell me that I'm wrong, because I might not know it. All right. So now I added some literals, string literals in here. And now, check this out. If I do buy, it's obviously not going to show up because I need to do my sync command. And because I do a local sync, let's see. The signature for, oh, I changed it up. Ooh. So let's fix that, shall we? On the onReady, I'm just going to put this temporarily. Bot.tree.sync. And then I also want to pull out the guild. So it doesn't recognize what the interaction.guild is. Let me look at the code real quick to see what the actual one is. Here's the code to sync up your Discord guild and the onReady statement. It's not recommended to do this because you're going to have a lot of awaits at the very beginning. So I'm going to delete that. And then you just refresh and then go from there. I changed it back here just for my sanity. All right. So now that we have our buy command, and let me sync that up now that I have an actual syncing. All right. Sync locally. So now when I refresh, let's go back to the buy. Now I actually have my options here denoted from here. All right. That's like level 2, bro. That's level 2 because there is an issue here. Oh, let's actually buy the item. So there is an issue here. What if I wanted to do like a bot sell command, right? I'm going to copy and paste this here. That means I'd have to copy and paste this again. You know what I'm saying? So like this would be, it would work, but it would take a very long time for you to get this command put in here. And then you can't really scale this up because you're going to have to do this manually every single time. You have to get the literal, the apple pie, cherry pie, and then if it's apple pie, then do this. If it's then that means the sell value is this. You have to do that every single time. That is not good at all. So with the first, when you saw the code at the very first part, what you were seeing were Pydantic models. It was a Pydantic model of this here. That way I was able to pass in a mapping of the items. That way the item will pull from that and it makes it modular, because instead of putting in each of these every single time, you could put in a class, you could put in a dictionary object of each of the items. That way you can pull the data from each of them. So let's go ahead and do that. Before we get to that, this is the second level of doing things. This is a more modular approach where you don't have to type in the literal, the string literal, every single time. So let me walk you through it. So let's see, if I were to do buy, it shows that. Let me delete my code and then I'll go step by step. So we were at this stage of the game before, and now let's try and convert this to something more modular. So Discord itself has this thing called app commands. If we import this if we import from Discord, import app commands, we're able to access this slew of applications commands. We're able to access this slew of modules contained in that wrapper. So if I were to access the method choices, I'm able to punch in and describe choices. Literally, this example explains it perfectly. I'm able to punch in these examples here, and then it would replace that parameter here. So instead of having a literal, we could make a choices parameter, right? And then app commands. And this is why you also don't really want to trust AI. If I were to do that here, you would see that this is white. And in part of me forgetting, like, not politically correct here, but white is not right. White is not right because a lot of these AI models are trained on older systems. What we want here, we want an object of choice, not option choice. So what this does is it defines variables that we can pass into the choice parameter. And this makes a more modular approach. So if I were to do apple pie, cherry pie, pumpkin pie, it would be easier. Let me close off this parenthesis right here. So now instead of doing pie is equal to the whole string literal, I believe I can pass that in. So let's see what that goes, and if I'm wrong, we will fix it. All right, so it looks like I'm wrong, and that's because app commands dot choice. So app commands dot choice is an iterable, I believe, because of this beautiful guy here, and it's a union. So you're passing in the string and local string, the name of the choice used for display purposes. So the name of the choice, so that's going to be the apple pie and all that jazz. Let's see, and then the value is whatever you want to pass into it. So let's hope that works. And you know what it is? It's because the parameter that we're passing in, these parameters have to match, or else it's not going to recognize it. So if I were to do pi, so now we have it so that it's working. So let me do my sync local and then refresh. So now if I do buy, see, now that I have my pie options, I can click cherry pie and pray to God, it works. So you see this here. It looks super duper weird, right? Like, why is it like that? So the reason why is because now we have objects here, and now we can define which one we want to pull from it. So look, this object now has a variable name, and this object also has a variable value. So if I were to buying pie.name, I can access that. And then I can also say something like await interaction follow up and bought value of pi.value. They're the same thing here, but let's look at this. Apples and yeah, the two ingredients for an apple pie. So if I were to change that up, let's see, sync local, syncing locally, let's do a refresh. So now if we do buy, if I do apple pie, bought apples and pie, because now that's now the value here. Think of how different that is, because now if we change anything in regards to what we're buying, we don't have to wait for the syncs to happen, because now everything's done outside of the function. If I were to change this, it would say, hey, your command's outdated, you know, blah 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 blah, and then issues arise. But this is the second level to that, because the thing is, even though this is a little bit easier, you're still running into the same problem of you're having to do this every single time that you need to do a buy or sell or whatever you want to do with that item. You're doing that every single time. So let's look at the fucking final boss of this shit. How I this is how I think is good practice at this stage of my developing career. Um, if you find a better option, bro, fucking do it and then let me know, please. So real quick, I want to keep this code here. That way we just know how we branched off and like how we got from there, right? So what I want to do is define a class. A class, not just any class, it's called Pydantic. Pydantic is something really good for data validation, meaning that you know for a fact, you can guarantee for a fact that a variable is going to be a string. A variable is going to be an integer. You can say that for a fact, so you can literally rely on Pydantic for your checks. With that being said, and it makes things super easy to pull from as well. With that being said, let's make a class called pies. So we'll just call it pi. All right, and then we're not going to pass an enum in here. I know the discord.py example uses an enum. I just don't think that that's like the best way to do it for what we're doing. Obviously, it has its own merit. So if I were to have a pi base model, right? So now I have these variables like the name, the value, the price, right? So now I'm good. I'm good here. Like now I can start creating objects of this. So if I were to create an object of like, let's see, apple. Yeah, apple pie, right? Look at this here. Apple pie, and then that's equal to an object. We're going to create an object of pie, and then that is going to have the name of apple pie, literally right there. Apple pie. And then the value is going to have apples and pie. And then, let's see, and then the price from the shop is going to be 5, right? So now we can append this to a dictionary, and this will hold all of our apple pies. So let's say if I had a dictionary, let's see. So I'm just going to print out this apple pie model. And when I do, we have the name of apple pie, the value apples and pies, and then the price is 5, right? So everything here is literally accounted for right now. So what I want to do is make a class that holds all of this information. So I'm going to make a class of pie choices. And then we're going to have it have initialization method, so a constructor, if you will. So self. And then self.pies, we're just going to have that number, right? So this initializes a base class of pie choices, and then the default object is just an empty list, right? So now let's define something called like add pie. And then this will take a pie object, so pie from here, and then it'll append it to this list right here. So self, because we always want it to reference itself for whatever reason, and then pie object. So then self.pie, then append pie, right? So now the last thing I want to do is get the choices that getPie has. Oops. So then I want it to return it's going to be a doozy, so this is actually correct. So this is going to return a list of all of the pies that we have. So if I do app commands bear with me here. So this is app command. This is what we've been working with this entire time, because app commands choices returns you a list of choices to have. So we're literally doing the same thing, but we're abstracting it out of here so it's more modular. So now we have choice, and then instead of passing in everything here, that's not good code. We want to be passing in the model itself. So we're passing in the object itself every single time. So with that, we want to do py.model. It's py.model.dump. Okay, good. Okay, so I had to make some changes to the code. What I didn't realize was choice only gets two parameters, and that's the name and the value. I put price in there earlier, and it didn't like it, right? So I'm going to run my code right now. So one thing that I changed was this still returns the app commands, so the choice. So this is a list of choices, and then we do a model dump. So that takes these values here and dumps them into py choices for py and self py. So that means every time they come across a py in the self.pys category, it adds it to the choices field, right? So right here, I'm going to add another choices.py, and then that's cherry pie, right? Let's see, pie, apple pie. And then we're going to omit price for now. In a later tutorial, I will figure that out myself. So now we'll do choices.add pie, pumpkin pie. And then that, so choices.add pie, I'll let you look at that real quick. So then now we get a list of dictionaries here. Each one of these is a dictionary item of that pie. So apple pie is a dictionary. This pie is a dictionary item of pie, and then that pie is in pie.choices, right? So now that we make a list of these, we put them inside here, and now we're able to push that inside the choices section. So if I were to, all right, so now if I do sync, let's see, now if I do buy, now all of these show up. And the command's outdated. Let me refresh. Forgot the golden rule. But now when I do buy, these show up. And then the value also shows up as well. This makes a way more modular approach, because now I can straight up do value like 5, right? And then let's do a slash sync while we still have time. And now instead of, let's see, we did that to apple pie. So now we can manipulate that value to have a different value for each of these guys. So I believe this is one of the most modular approaches. I think straight up the last portion would be having a JSON file and then having the pies pull from that JSON file. That way you can straight up just have as many pies as possible, and then you just change up the JSON file itself instead of changing code here. We aren't going to do that. Partly because I know how to do it, but I wouldn't be able to explain it correctly. And if that is something that you think it needs to be addressed, then let me know and put in the comments. But yeah, that covers that. This is how to make a whole parameterization of your Discord commands. So now if I were to do like a bot.tree, let's say if I want to do like a cell command, right? So then So it would be so easy because now all I have to do is literally pass in now all I have to do is just pass in choices. I don't have to do this. I don't have to copy and paste this every single time. So now I can do the async def cell, async def cell, interaction. Yep, it's literally right here. So interaction, Discord interaction, and then app commands choice, and then that's a string. So now I can just straight up sell these without having to worry about, let's see. Oops. Now I can straight up just sell these without having to worry about making sure this is the same as that, this is the same as that, because now it's all done here. I'm abstracting everything, so now the content that I want to do is easier than the content that like needs to be done. So let's do the sync so we can get local syncing locally. So now I have a cell command. And I think at this point, I think the next step would probably be making like a database so that it would pull from those files. So I think that might be the next one. Hopefully this wasn't a terrible tutorial by any means, and you have a good one.